Welcome back to the channel, everybody. In today's video, we are going to address two things that I think are really important. Number one, we are going to address what I have pulled up here, which is Blake Lively's PR statement. So we talked about this yesterday. It is a PR statement that her team made, and then she posted in her Instagram stories, and how it doesn't track with who she hired, being Nick Shapiro and his past. And then we're going to address some of the lies that Bryan Freedman called her out on in some letters to the judge. Now, one, welcome. Two, we have a really bad storm rolling in and we have storm warnings. And I live in the middle of nowhere. So it is very possible. Let me just make sure this is even working properly. It is very possible that I get kicked off or we struggle with the internet. So I apologize if that's the case. Hello, guys. Yes, Leo, thank you for the reminder. Like the stream, say hi in the chat. It's a great chat. We're a little bit earlier than we usually are, so I think everyone has to adjust to that. But I wanted to get on today because of the storms and hopefully at least get something on for you guys. I can comment the first time in months. Oh my goodness. Well, it's nice to see you back in the chat. All right, I'm going to hit the ground running. We're going to get right into it in case we get cut off. Don't worry, if we get cut off, StreamYard should save it and I'll post however far we get up on the channel. All right, let's look at her statement first. And then I want to dive into, if Blake actually feels this way, don't you think she would hire people that align with that? I mean, we're going to leave out all the other issues we've seen with her in terms of WME and the issues with Ari Emanuel and all of that. Let's just focus on this one issue. She said, last week I stood proudly, well, no, her PR team, this is a PR team wrote this. Last week I stood proudly alongside 19 organizations united in defending women's rights to speak up for their safety. That's what I want you to hold on to speak up for their safety. Like so many others, I felt the pain of a retaliatory lawsuit, including the manufactured shame that tries to break us. While the suit against me was defeated, so many don't have the resources to fight back. Or some people are paid $7 million, so they don't fight back. Am I right, Nick Shapiro? I'm more resolved than ever to confirm or to continue to stand for every woman's right to have a voice in protecting themselves, including their safety, their integrity, their dignity, and their story. Would love a statement, Blake, on Nick Shapiro. There are protections out there, not when you sign an NDA and Nick Shapiro pays you $7 million to shut up, but okay. Check out some of the incredible organizations below for resources and information. With love and gratitude for the many who stood by me. Many of you I know, many of you I don't, and I will never stop appreciating or advocating for you. All right, let's flip over to who her buddy Nick Shapiro is. Let's start with his connections. And let's hope the internet hangs out with us here. Okay, this is not political. Last time I talked about this, people were like, I want you, except you're not political. It's just information about Nick Shapiro's past, all right? This is the first issue we have with Nick Shapiro. So Blake took shots at Bryan Freedman saying, you know, he's going to his favorite media outlets and posting these stories and, you know, TMZ, etc., and all these lies about me. Well, one, Blake, you have your favorite media outlets. Your lawyer, Gottlieb, has been on a media tour, including CNN and TMZ yourself. You guys have not shut up. You continually run to people. But okay, let's put that aside for a second, because who you hired, and Blake's team came out with the exclusive, I think it was in Variety, in regards to bringing Nick Shapiro on. This is my theory. If you want my theory on the PR of this, I'm going to give you guys it because that's what we talk here. Oh, welcome to the channel if you're new. I was so intent on getting everything in as much as I could in before the storm hits. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Ashley Brianna Eve. Welcome to the channel. Here we look at pop culture headlines and stories, including Blake, Justin Baldoni, Ryan Reynolds of it all. The It Ends With Us lawsuit through my background, which is a lens of branding, marketing, and PR. So we take a little bit of a different look at the headlines. And what we're looking at today is exactly how Blake has been shaping a certain narrative. She's been shaping a certain narrative, and Nick has been helping her with that because Nick is a master at using his connections. He was with the CIA. And a lot of people are like, he was just a janitor there. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. I think a lot of people, I'm not American, but I think people watch too much TV and they think to be in the CIA, you're like on boots on the ground as if it's like Homeland with Claire Danes, right? He was in communications, public relations, all of that. So within the CIA, how this started. So ex-CIA chief spills on how he got spies to write false Hunter Biden laptop letter to help Biden. How Nick Shapiro got brought into it was he was called in to get in touch with his reporter contacts, because to control the narrative, you want your story going out, which there's proof in all of the stories. If you look up this, there's more articles on this and exposés on it. And I think I talked about it previously. But the headline, 80% of people only read the headline. You want your headline going out. You want your narrative going out. So they needed a reporter that was friendly to them. So let's scroll down. We're not going to go over this whole thing, but there is something I want to talk about here. So further. Oh, no, there it is. This is who Blake took on. Someone that is the master of controlling headlines with the CIA. Someone is a master of controlling the narrative with the CIA, but she takes shots at Bryan Freedman. Okay. Over the next 2 days, Morell gathered signatures from 51 former intelligence officials, including himself, and 4 other former CIA directors, including John Brennan and Leon Panetta. I'm horrible with names. Morell testified that he sent an email telling Nick Shapiro, yes, the Nick Shapiro, former deputy of staff to Brennan, that the Biden campaign wanted the statement to go to a particular reporter at the Washington Post and that he should send the statement to the campaign as well. Morell did not recall why he told Shapiro the campaign wanted the statement to go to the reporter first, and admitted that he may have spoken to the campaign on another occasion. In the end, Shapiro took the letter to Politico, which published it on October 19th under the headline, "Hunter Biden's story is Russian disinfo," dozens of former officials say. The letter alleged that the New York Post story has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. So what they were also trying to do here is, this is on the New York Post. The New York Post had tried to kind of whistleblow on all of this. And so they sent in Nick Shapiro not only to get their story out there, but to discredit the New York Post. So it was a two-pronged approach that Nick Shapiro was in charge of. Get their story out and discredit people that, which here was the New York Post, that had an opposing story or were exposing what was really going on. Because if you discredit, say, the New York Post, and you put out a different narrative, people are gonna be like, well, that's discredited and you're giving me this narrative, so I'm going to believe you. This seems more logical. And there's communications, and during the investigation that came out, that they all admitted they picked Russian disinformation because it would go viral. It would snag headlines. It would snag clicks. So that's Nick Shapiro. Now, when we're looking at narrative control, to circle back to what I was saying with that Variety, Blake Lively, let's actually pull it up quick, just to show you what I mean. Because you want to get in ahead of things. This is something I've talked about in the past. And I had people say, why would Blake have put this out? Because you want control of the narrative. Okay. So Blake, I fully believe this exclusive was Blake. Some people say maybe it was just inside. No, I believe this was Blake. Blake Lively hires CIA alum for crisis PR and legal battle with Justin Baldoni. So what this shows is, number one, this is my belief from my experience in branding, marketing, and PR. My belief, number one, is it gives the impression of, holy shit, she needs to bring in the CIA. This has gotten so bad. The retaliatory campaign has got so bad. Justin Baldoni is going so hard on her that she legit has to bring in the CIA. So number one, that was an intention with this, or I mean, allegedly an intention with this. So they talk about hired PR crisis manager with deep government ties. So one of the things people said to me is, Ashley, why would she say that? Because in PR, you want to get ahead of it. If you know it's going to get out anyway, get ahead of it. Now, they didn't get ahead of the Airbnb thing, but interestingly enough, really no one's picking it up. I think I'm the only one that talked about it. A couple people picked up my stories on it. There was Glamour's hit piece on Justin Baldoni and Mommy Sleuths that picked up my content on it to discredit me. There was another hit piece on Justin Baldoni and the online sleuths that picked up my content on it to discredit me in regards to it. But they wanted to get ahead of it because eventually it would come out, and it looks worse if you're not putting it forward. So they changed the narrative to be like, Blake had to hire this guy. It is so bad, this legal battle, that she had to bring in someone that's worked with the CIA. All right, so it goes here. The actress who is suing and being sued by her ends with us director and co-stars quietly working with Nick Shapiro. Not so quietly if you give an exclusive, but okay. The CIA's former deputy chief of staff and senior advisor to former director John Brennan. The litigation team for Miss Lively retained Mr. Shapiro to advise on the legal communication strategy for the ongoing SH and retaliation lawsuit occurring in the Southern District of New York, says a member of the actress's legal team. So again, it's got so bad. This is who we had to bring in. They talk about her filing with the CRD complaint, about Justin Baldoni hitting back, suing the New York Times. If you keep going down, it's at the bottom, right? So most people, 80% are reading the headline, and then you get some people that read the first 100 words. But down here, they put it in to get ahead of the story. So launched the crisis PR firm 10th Avenue Consulting in 2015 after the lengthy tenure in the federal government. What they leave out is that between working for the CIA and starting his PR company, her PR crisis guy worked for Airbnb, the Black Box team. The Black Box team was what they termed. So if you look at the exposés on it, they called it the Black Box team because it was a black box. It was just like empty checks, bottomless pit to make things go away. So that was what essentially the team had termed it, nicknamed it. So they take some from Shapiro's bio that he helped to lead the Obama's administration in the H1N1 pandemic, elementary school, I don't want to say some of the words, Gulf oil spill, Boston Marathon, the Japan earthquake, et cetera, et cetera. He also was in charge of numerous cyber attacks, data breaches, wildfires, floods, and hurricanes. In terms of controlling the narrative, that's what his job was. That if it did leak, they had control of what got out. And some people had said to me, well, you didn't do a good job because like all that information got out. That's not necessarily only what crisis communication is and what PR is, right? It's how do you control it and how much worse would it be if you didn't have someone like Nick Shapiro working for you? So they got ahead of the story, but let's look at that little convenient gap they left. They left a little gap. All right, let's have a look at what that gap is that they left. Oh, I think I have to pull it up. But I got you. Because remember, I want you guys to really have a little on a sticky note of your brain that she is working to defend. These are her words, her PR words, but her words, defend women's rights to speak up for their safety. Yet this is who she hired. So just keep that in mind. That's the picture that was also used to promote Nick being on her team. Nick Shapiro, former global head of crisis management at Airbnb. So when she did her exclusive for Variety, they left this piece out. All right? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. This says, and this was an expose, and we'll look at the Bloomberg one as well. We're not going to read every word, but I just want to give you an idea of who Nick is and how Blake she doesn't give a shit. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about being a voice for people. She doesn't care about being a voice for women. And something I want you to keep in mind as we go through this is not only in Nick Shapiro's job did he prevent women from using their voices and getting justice for the crimes done against them. However, by hiding the truth of what went down at Airbnbs, he prevented women from making informed decisions of whether they find it safe or not to continue using Airbnb. And that is what gets me so upset. Because some women might be like, I don't care. I would go anyway. Doesn't matter to me. Yeah, but by hiring Nick Shapiro and having the Black Box team, they took away the knowledge women deserve to have, and men and children, families deserve to have to make informed decisions. Because when you go through this, and I've talked about this many times, when you go through all of this, early investors refused to invest in Airbnb because they said it was fundamentally flawed and blood would be on their hands, that it was a dangerous setup, and people refused to invest. So they got a warning from the very start that this would happen. And instead of making it safer, what Airbnb did was hire a cleanup crew. They hired a Ray Donovan, basically, which is Nick Shapiro. I used to always call him the real life Ray Donovan. Allegedly. Wink, wink. Reports have revealed that Airbnb has spent nearly $50 million a year to keep serious incidents in its rentals out of the press through the use of a black box team. The cash has been given to both hosts and guests so that they will not imply responsibility or liability on Airbnb. These payments came through the form of blank checks that were provided to members of the black box team, Nick Shapiro, by the company, which went public in December. So it talks about it consists of 100 agents. Nick Shapiro, pictured above, former National Security Council advisor to former President Barack Obama and deputy chief of staff at the CIA, was among those hired to the team. He was in charge. He left, but he was global head of crisis management. So he said he described his experience with the black box team as similar to the White House Situation Room. He said, I remember thinking I was right back in the thick of it. This brought me back to feelings of confronting truly horrific matters at Langley and in the Situation Room of the White House. Nick, you're no hero because you made things go away. You lied to the public. You manipulated the media. You manipulated headlines. You're not a victim here. And then you took it into your business. All right, so agents describe paying for bullet holes to be covered, fluids to be removed. Money went towards counseling, testing, flights, new accommodations, health costs, and more. And Airbnb said it was like to take care of guests. No, it was to hide things because people were paid off. In one incident, Airbnb paid an Australian woman $7 million for an SA that occurred on New Year's Day in 2016. Airbnb flew the woman's mother to the United States from Australia, flew them home, and offered to pay for health and counseling costs. She received $7 million 2 years later in an agreement that she would not sue Airbnb or the host of the property where she was SA'd. But let me think. Okay, I have to think back because Blake said that she's defending women's rights to speak up for their safety. But all Nick Shapiro has done in his career, especially in Airbnb, is stop women from speaking up for their safety. Because again, you're not just taking away the right for these women to speak up, potentially sue Airbnb, bring it to court, criminal charges, but they made it go away. Everything went away. There's horrific things with children. We're just going to scroll past that. Someone died in Costa Rica 2018. It was by a security guard at the apartment complex. So one of these issues that comes up over and over again, and one of the concerns with early investors was keys. It's not like the locks are changed every single time, right? So you could have someone that's shady make copies of the keys, and now you can get into that property. But it was also the hosts that sometimes were the perpetrators and sometimes the guests. It was horrific. So they essentially had blank checks. Now we'll look at one more article quick in regards to that. And there was a huge expose done on it. So this is the other one. And again, if you're an advocate for women, if you're Blake and an advocate for women, I don't know. I'm just talking for myself here, but I wouldn't be hiring someone like Nick onto my team. There's no way. There's no way. Yep, he silenced them. Exactly. Blake made all this up because Shasti dropped her little bump interview and Blake didn't want to apologize. Yes, well, yeah, she doesn't apologize. There was no lawsuit before Shasti's interview. That's actually a good point. I didn't even think of that. Blake does not understand that everyone hates her. She made sure of it. Hiring Nick Shapiro will come back and bite her in the butt. Yes. All right. So Airbnb is spending millions of dollars to make nightmares go away. When things go horribly wrong during a stay, the company's secretive safety team jumps in to soothe guests and hosts, help families, but really prevent PR disasters. So they break down the Australian woman's story, which is absolutely horrible. And that sets the stage on how Airbnb knew about how dangerous this was from the get-go. I think they did a great job, Bloomberg, setting the stage for this. They talk about who gets called in first. Look who gets called in first. actually be like, if I talk about Black Box and Nick Shapiro and mention Airbnb, I might get in an article written by someone. Condé Nast Oats. You know it. You know that I'm now going to be in another hit piece. Every single time I bring up Nick Shapiro, I'm in a hit piece. Literally every single time. How relevant is the alleged smear campaign if SH had not been officially documented, let alone proven? Just a CRD complaint. Well, after the movie ended, riddled with accusations and no proof. So Nick Shapiro was called in first. And one of the things I've said all along about him is what we're not necessarily looking at is just what he puts out, right? More so with someone like him, you're looking at controlling the narrative of what gets out. So again, if we look back at his time with Hunter Biden and the government, they didn't just with their article put out the spin they wanted. They took out the New York Post while doing it. Okay, so they had to discredit the New York Post while doing it. So this is what you're seeing a lot in the PR attack with Justin Baldoni. So it's not just getting Blake's, and let me know in the comments, are you guys noticing that this has been happening and it's been ramping up? Not only are they getting Blake's narrative out, but while they do it, they're discrediting Justin. They're discrediting Bryan. Let me know if that sounds a little familiar. I know we just looked at a little bit of it, but if it sounds familiar to what they did, what he did with the article and the New York Post, because again, it was we got to get our story out, disinformation, and discredit the New York Post so people don't believe them. So that's exactly what we're seeing happen here. Welcome to the channel. It's so nice to have you. Such a great group here. Such a good community. I love this. I love this community that's come together. So again, morning calls go straight to Nick. He then notifies other Airbnb execs, including Chief Officer Brian Chesty. Meanwhile, safety agents from the company's elite trust and safety team sprang in action. That's what they called it. The trust and safety team. So again, we went over that. Relocated the woman to the hotel. The duplicate keys posed a particular problem for the company and a mystery for investigators. So there were duplicate keys, and you guys can check this out. It's on Bloomberg. If you search Nick Shapiro Airbnb, this isn't like secret information that I found that I'm bringing out. You can find it on Google as well if you want to read the whole article. Just, it's really graphic and horrible what happened, but this was a big problem. But look at particular problem for the company. Not for making sure justice happened for this woman that was SA'd. No. Particular problem for the company. A week later, a staff member was sent to court to see if Airbnb was mentioned during the proceedings. It wasn't. The local media didn't report on the crime either, despite the lurid details, and the company wanted to keep it that way. The story remained unreported until now, in no small part because 2 years after the assault, Airbnb wrote the woman a check for $7 million, one of the biggest payouts the company had ever made. In exchange, she signed an agreement not to talk about the settlement or imply responsibility or liability on the part of Airbnb or the host. Details of the crime, the company's response, and the settlement were reconstructed from police and court records and confidential documents, as well as from interviews with people familiar with the case. Yeah. The way Airbnb has handled crimes such as the New York attack, which occurred during a bitter regulatory fight, shows how critical the safety team, Black Box team, has been to the company's growth. Because here's the thing, Airbnb's model rests on the idea that strangers can trust one another. If that premise is undermined, it can mean fewer users and more lawsuits, not to mention tighter regulation. So what we saw, the Black Box team, oh my gosh, that makes me so happy. It's such a good group here. What we saw with the Black Box team is their job was to make sure that that premise wasn't undermined. That the premise that it is okay to trust strangers wasn't undermined. So they did what they needed to do to hide what happened from the headlines. So for all its importance, the safety team remained shrouded in secrecy. Insiders called it Black Box. So again, that is who Blake hired for her PR. But Blake is a champion for women. Blake wants women's stories to be heard. She wants them to have a voice. She's felt the pain of a retaliatory lawsuit. Well, these women weren't even allowed to file lawsuits because they signed NDAs. And again, for me, I won't hire anyone that's out of alignment with my company's values. I won't hire anyone that's out of alignment with my beliefs. There is no way, even if I was a size in terms of a personality and a brand as Blake Lively, that I would bring Nick Shapiro on. There is just no way. Blake is a megaphone for her voice. Yes. 100%. Okay. With that, though, that's a good segue. Let's look at some of the lies she's been called out for, because Bryan Freedman took to the docket to say Blake Lively is a liar that lies, a lying liar that lies, and we're going to set the record straight. What one do I even want to start with? Let me just see what one I have pulled up here. Sorry, I have multiple. There's a lot of problems with Blake Lively and all of her lies. Okay, let's start here with Taylor Swift. Okay, we're going to just dive right in. How are you guys feeling after that? Yes, please like the stream. Oh, thanks, guys. You guys are so sweet in the comments. Oh my goodness. All right. Dear Judge Lyman, so this is Wayfarer responding. As counsel for Wayfarer Studios, LLC, Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, It Ends With Us Movies, LLC, Melissa Nathan, The Agency Group, PR, LLC, Jennifer Abel, we write in opposition to Blake Lively's motion for a protective order concerning her relevant communications with Taylor Swift. And again, the reason why I started with Nick Shapiro is I want you guys to have that in the background of your mind, right? Whether he's still on the team or not, I imagine he's still on the team, but who knows? I don't know. Usually you would keep someone like that unless they're just coming in to consult at the beginning. Typically you would keep someone like that through the extent of what's going on, as long as you need crisis intervention, which I would say Blake is still in the crisis phase. So I would find it hard to believe he's not there. But regardless, just keep in your back of your mind that what she's trying to do is the playbook of Nick Shapiro. And that's, everyone can come to that conclusion on their own or disagree with me. We can see it on what's been done already is discredit the other side and put your story forward. So that's what Blake's been doing, and Bryan's responding to this. The Wayfarer parties also request an order compelling Miss Lively to produce documents relating to A, her alleged SH and retaliation. Wouldn't we all love to see that? And B, her communications with Miss Swift, Sony, WME concerning the same. C, her claims for economic damages, which are responsive to certain requests for production. Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 26B1 provides that parties may obtain discovery regarding any non-privileged matter that is relevant to any party's claims or defense. Miss Lively is bound by her amended initial disclosures. Miss Lively contends that Miss Swift is not central to Miss Lively's claims. Why is my calendar going off? Okay, we're good. It's like, do I have a client call? I'm supposed to be on shit. No, I have client calls this afternoon. Panicked for a minute. Miss Lively contends that Miss Swift is not central to Miss Lively's claims, and that the only allegations that were even remotely relevant to Miss Swift were in Wayfarer parties' now dismissed complaint. Rule 26A1 requires parties to disclose the identity of each individual likely to have discoverable information, along with the subjects of that information that the disclosing party may use to support its claims or defenses. The Wayfarer party's initial disclosure identified Taylor Swift as having precipient knowledge as to the facts and events alleged in the pleadings. And her amended initial disclosure served a week ago. I love how they put it in they're like italics. Stress this, a week ago. I don't even think Blake can keep track of everything, to be quite honest. Miss Lively identified certain individuals who she believes have discoverable information about her claims. This is redacted. Who's dying to know what is under redacted? I am dying to know what is under here. But according to Miss Lively, they said this is from a week ago. Dying to know. Miss Lively's counsel signed, so after redacted, Miss Lively's counsel signed her amended initial disclosures, thereby certifying that the disclosures therein were complete and correct under Rule G1A. Thus, Miss Lively admits that redacted again. That's got to be in regards to Taylor Swift, because they're talking about Taylor Swift and how she's bound to her amended initial disclosure. What did she say? Miss Lively is required to produce her non-privileged communications with witnesses identified in her amended initial disclosure. I love this. So again, she's trying to discredit Bryan Freedman and Justin Baldoni. We've talked about that. This bullshit that her and Matt Gottlieb are on, the CNN, TMZ, all of it. They're just trying to discredit Bryan Freedman. We also saw that it was Bryan Freedman's motion to quash yesterday. I'm getting like, my brain is mush from all these motions. The docket's like a freaking Christmas tree lighting up every day. But it was yesterday where he said, Blake Lively is basically trying to discredit him, saying he goes to his favorite outlets with information. Well, Blake, you do the same. But he's saying, no, this is all shit that she's done. This is all stuff that she's been saying. She's the one that brought Taylor into it, not me. Although Blake's trying to turn it around consistently. They are bringing Taylor in for clicks. And he's going, no. So I love this. Also in regards to the potential for content creators to pick it up. Legacy media probably won't because they're so pro Blake, but potential for them to pick it up where it's saying, no, she admitted it. I honestly don't even think Blake remembers what she said a week ago. So in fact, Miss Lively previously represented in her formal discovery response that she blank. So it's redacted again. This is all about Taylor. So this is Bryan saying, no. She's the one that brought Taylor into this. So he's calling her out on all her lies. Request number 108 and 109, Miss Lively has publicly stated that Miss Swift was with her on this experience the whole time, all throughout it. She lived this with me. Using Blake. I love it because Blake is all about trying to twist Justin's words and use them against him. I love that this is what she said. In her motion, Miss Lively does not contend that the production of her communications with Miss Swift relating to It Ends With Us and this action is disproportional to the needs of the case. Miss Lively's communication with Taylor Swift are also relevant to Miss Lively's alleged garden variety emotional distress. It just kills me that she can keep going with this garden variety emotional distress. This is why Taylor needs to say something wherever she stands to shut this down. Enough speculation and Easter eggs. I do think she just needs to. It's been a very, very, very long time. And her team's probably done cost benefit on that. But yeah, it would be nice if she did just shut it down. It's very unlikely she will, but that would be nice. And Smith versus Pergola, the plaintiffs claim that they suffered a significant loss of enjoyment, anxiety, and social withdrawal because of the defendant's alleged discriminatory conduct. The court granted the defendant's motion to compel the plaintiff's production of text messages and emails concerning their visits to social venues. Social venues, I wonder which one, Blake. I don't know. The Taylor Swift concerts you went to when you called in sick to work? Those ones? Probably. Interesting they mentioned social venues because if you track the days that Blake said she was sick, she did show up at a Taylor Swift concert because they were relevant to the plaintiff's request for emotional distress damages. Oh, Blake. Specifically, the court held that communications and postings showing that plaintiff experienced a great deal of pleasure and no anxiety while at these venues might go a long way in showing that any immediate impact that they suffered from the alleged discriminatory conduct did not have lasting effect. Do you want to bet Bryan Freedman has like a file folder of pictures of Blake Lively at the concert with Taylor when she claimed to be sick? Would she claim to have this emotional distress? I can't wait for those pictures to be blown up in court. All right, Blake, you're claiming to have garden variety emotional distress. Oh, yeah, and she was at a Beyonce concert. That's true. But this is you with Bestie T Swift and your kiddos at the concert, and you look like you're having a really good time. Care to explain? Blake's her own worst enemy. She tells on herself all the time. I've said this all along. Here, Miss Lively recently withdrew her claims for intentional inflictions of emotional distress and negligent infliction of emotional distress, collectively the IED claims. Therefore, Miss Lively stated that she still pleads and intends to introduce evidence of garden variety emotional distress in connection with her other remaining claims. As part of her remaining claims for harassment and retaliation, Miss Lively alleged that she has suffered and continues to suffer from severe emotional distress, pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, and mental anguish. In an order dated June 10th, 2025, the court confirmed that the dismissal of the IED claims did not preclude Lively from offering evidence of garden variety emotional distress. If Miss Lively and Miss Swift socialized after the alleged incidents at issue in this case, as has been reported, the Wayfarer parties are entitled to relevant communication to disprove Miss Lively's purported emotional distress. Oops. Oh no, Blakey. Wow. She's her own worst enemy. She's going to be her own downfall. And I agree. Let me know what you guys think. This seems highly relevant. How do you argue Taylor Swift isn't relevant with this? Well, no, they always say alleged. Yeah, her own lawyers say alleged. It's wild. I agree with them. I wonder if, let me know what you think, guys. Let me know what you think. Remember, Blake said, and she's crying, that Bryan Freedman didn't turn over the documents that Venable, Taylor's law firm, gave him. And earlier this week, I had said, I don't think that they gave him documents. I don't think Bryan Freedman's lying. Blake Lively wants you to in her PR, but I don't think Bryan Freedman's lying. I don't think that there was any documents that were turned over. Do you want to make a bet that Venable and Taylor Swift, this is one of those pieces of like, look at around this date. Look at news articles around this date. Subpoena Blake for text messages around this date. I'm standing firm. I'll be the first one to be like, shit, I was wrong. You guys know, those that have been here from the beginning of the year, when I was like, Blake Lively, she just has crunchy energy. It's like, damn it, I was wrong. Why did I defend her? But I think that's what Venable did. And so they kind of like get to do this and wash their hands and say, we didn't turn over any documents. There's no documents we turned over. What are you talking about? And it was dismissed. The subpoena against Venable and Taylor was dismissed without prejudice. So I do wonder if there's an aspect if they don't get it through Blake. Bryan was like, well, we're coming back. We're coming back. Information, not documentation. I'm thinking so. And if they did, they were also not lying to Blake's lawyers by saying we didn't turn over anything. And she's not going to have to sit for a deposition. I think this is it. And they're saying it without saying this is what Taylor gave us. Again, what do I know? I'm not a lawyer. I don't even play one on TV. But I think this is what Taylor's team gave them. An order dated June 10th, 2025 confirmed that the dismissal of the ID claims did not preclude her from offering the garden variety. Yeah. I guarantee if Miss Lively and Miss Swift socialized after the alleged incidents at issue in this case, as has been reported, the Wayfarer parties are entitled to relevant communications to disprove Miss Lively purported emotional distress. Blake, you made yourself look like a fool by being like, they're not showing me the documents. Can you imagine being such a horrible person that you have to go to the media and the courts to have your best friend tell you or ex-best friend tell you what was said? It's wild. That's where I'm putting my chips. All my chips. I've never even gambled, but all my chips are going into Venable and Taylor told them. They hung out after and Blake was fine. Blake was texting around that time. Look for your documents there. Miss Lively's improper reliance on hearsay to shield production of relevant documents. The crux of the motion is that because a Daily Mail reporter quoted an unidentified insider as stating that the Wayfarer parties obtained unspecified information from Miss Swift and Miss Lively should not be compelled to produce relevant communications with Miss Swift in her own possession. Tellingly, Miss Lively does not cite any legal authority for the proposition that such double hearsay is a proper basis to preclude the Wayfarer parties from obtaining relevant discovery from Miss Lively. Blake's like, No, you got it from her. I'm not giving you anything. It's like a petulant child, especially information which the Wayfarer parties believe will further exculpate them. In any event, counsel for the Wayfarer parties and Miss Smith, oh my God. Guys, I need like a day off from this case. I don't know why I keep saying Miss Smith. I don't know. I have no justification for it other than I need like a day off from this case. Okay. In any event, counsel for the Wayfarer parties and Miss Swift both confirmed that no communication between Miss Lively and Miss Swift had been documented to the provided to the Wayfarer parties. That acknowledgement, which Lively is unable to contest, refutes her contention that discovery sought from her is cumulative and duplicative. Okay, I agree with that. If Blake's in one side of her mouth arguing, you didn't get anything anyway, and now the other side of her mouth, she's like, it's cumulative. You're just getting the same thing. Well, which one is it? Either they got nothing from Taylor or it's cumulative because they're asking for the same thing from you. So which is it, Blake? I love your Blake voice. Oh, thanks, guys. They're blocking the JV team from getting comparable access to press. Oh, probably. Probably. Blake says she's a hoarder and saves. Yeah, that's true too. Probably Mr. Smith from The Matrix. One of my favorite movies, by the way. Good reference. One of my favorites. Blake. For good measure, even assuming the Wayfarer parties had received relevant documents from Taylor Swift, which they have not, such hypothetical fact does not relieve Miss Lively from complying with her own obligations under Rule 34 to provide documents in her possession. I don't know, guys. Because here's the thing. Bryan Freedman never said, we got all the documents. He never said that. He never said they turned over all of the documents. He said we got everything we needed and more. Ms. Lively should be compelled to produce documents responsive to the other requests. It is undisputed that Ms. Lively is obligated to produce documents concerning her allegations of SH and retaliation, B, her communications with Sony and WME, or talent agency, concerning the same, and C, her claims for economic damages. Yeah. Because, and I want to know how the economic damages are relevant to Justin. I want to know that. And how do you prove they're relevant to Justin? Because criticism was coming before that. And people are pointing out Blake's hypocrisy around not drinking, but yet selling alcohol. So that could also be a reason why there's poor sales. Although we appreciate the positive influence of Taylor Swift's music and the impact it's had on worldwide audience, it was Miss Lively and not the Wayfarer parties that contemporaneously inserted Miss Swift into this dispute. And Miss Lively cannot use Miss Swift's stardom to withhold evidence. Whoo! That's good. Okay. You can, yeah, exactly. That's exactly. It's like Oprah giving out cars. All right. So that's number one. But I believe I want to try and go in order. ADHD brain, I get a million tabs open and I get so excited to talk to you guys about it. And then it's just chaos. But I think this is the next one. Because I think it was this one I found really interesting as well. So I want to hear your theories. If you're live on the chat, if you're watching the replay, drop your theories in the comments. And be honest, we won't attack you here. I try my very best as a one-woman show to make sure it is a safe place and people are not getting attacked. It is one of my rules of the community because I want you to be able to share your opinion, but also don't attack me. Don't attack other people. We look at the arguments, not attack the person. So I want you to drop in the comments. Do you think Bryan Freedman lied and it was PR? And why? You don't have to like write a dissertation or anything, but you're like, no, I think he lied. I think it was just a whole PR thing. He didn't get anything. Or do you think it was simply, I wish I knew how to do polls. If I knew how to do polls, I'd do a poll. We're doing our own like basic bitch poll. Or B, do you think that Bryan Freedman got information, not documentation? Therefore, when he said we got everything we needed, he got everything he needed. It was dates. Look at this. She was at the concert here. Check out this date. Check out this publication. Specific wording. Oh, and that's a good point. Thank you. It can be both. And it absolutely can be. Absolutely. I think that's a great point because, and I've said this for some time, I get pushback from Justin Baldoni's camp often. I say it's a PR war on both sides. And, I've had people push back and say, well, no, Justin's just trying to clear his name. Yeah, that's why I'm saying it is a PR war on both sides. It is a PR war and a legal war. So thank you very much for also pointing that out because I think it's important. It is both sides. It matters. Okay. Declaration of Kevin Fritz in opposition to plaintiff's motion for a protective order in opposition to cross motion to compel. I am a partner at Meester, Sealing and Fain, PLLC, attorney for Consolidated Plaintiffs, Wayfarer Studios, Baldoni, Heath, it ends with us, Nathan, Abel, Sarowitz, collectively the Wayfarer parties. I submit this declaration in opposition to Miss Lively's motion for a protective order, relieving her of obligation to produce communication with Taylor Swift. Number 3, this declaration is also submitted in support of the Wayfarer party's cross-promotion to compel Miss Lively to produce documents relating to A, her allegations of SH and retaliation, B, her communications with Miss Swift, Sony, WME concerning the same, and C, her claims for economic damages, which are responsive to certain requests for production. Number 4, neither Taylor Swift nor her counsel, Venable LLP, have provided the Wayfarer parties or their counsel with any communications between Taylor and Blake. Yeah, I've been saying that I don't think there is any communications because this also keeps Taylor as much out of it from Justin's perspective. In my mind, when I look at the PR side of this, to me, it looks like Justin and Bryan have jumped through hoops. And I'm not just saying this because I'm obviously team Justin. I'm not saying zoom out for me, looking at it objectively, it does look like they've jumped through hoops to try and as much as possible keep Taylor's name out of it. They had to respond. So anyone that's on Blake's side and saying, well, no, they brought her in by putting the text messages, they had to respond. Blake brought her in. They had every right to defend themselves and put the truth out. But when we look at the very public subpoena, it was to Venable. Taylor's name wasn't on it. So to me, they've jumped through hoops to try and as much as possible not make Taylor the headline. Blake is the one making Taylor the headline. So I think this, to me, also is another step of as much as possible, we want to keep, for example, hypothetically, this conversation with Venable, as much as possible, we want to keep her name out of it. As much as possible, we want to keep Taylor clean of this mess. So we don't necessarily need documentations. But if you could point us in the direction of where we could find that, that'd be helpful. 5, and Bryan never said they got documentation, right? And that's a PR thing as well. You want to look at the words. 5, on May 22nd, 2025 at 10:58 a.m., Miss Swift's counsel notified Miss Lively's counsel that no communications between them had been provided to Wayfarer. No documentation are produced and no deposition was scheduled. Bryan never claimed either was happening. 6, therefore, when Miss Lively's counsel demanded, look at this, May 22nd, 2025. So they're again calling out bullshit from Blake. Blake is playing the court. She's playing the media. And she's a lying liar that lies. So look at this date. On May 22nd, 2025 at 10:58 a.m., Taylor's counsel notified Blake's that no communication between them was provided. May 22nd, 2025, the same day at 5 p.m. There is no way her lawyers had not checked their email between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. I'm sorry. What does Zach Peters say? Do you think I was born under a coconut tree or something like that? He's funny. That would be a relevant slogan to have here, saying to have here. I do not believe in any realm of possibility that their team did not check their emails between those times. So when Miss Lively's counsel demanded the same day, May 22nd, 2025 at 4:57 p.m. that the Wayfarer parties produce documents obtained from Taylor Swift or her counsel concerning Miss Lively's counsel already knew that such documents Miss Lively's counsel already knew that no such documents were in the Wayfarer party's possession. So she blatantly lied to the court to make it look like Justin's side was being shady. She immediately ran to the court to make it look like Justin's side was refusing to produce documents. What? Is that the female lawyer that Bryan Freedman got was to help keep Tay name out of it? Maybe that's possible. That's actually a good point. That's very possible. Fell out of coconut tree. Yeah. Sorry. I messed up your slogan. I tried. Fell out of a coconut tree. That's what it is. What did I say? Oh man, I'm such a mess sometimes. I never have a script, guys. We just raw dog it. That's freaking funny. Do you guys remember, those that were here from the beginning? Do you remember when I was like, who's this Nick Vile guy? And I was going on and on about this Nick Vile guy and how no one knows who he is. You guys are like, what? You don't know who Nick Vile is? And you guys were laughing at me back then. Yeah. So, I have no script. I just roll with it. That's funny though. Sorry, Zach. I got your saying wrong. Okay. So they lied to the court, misrepresented Justin's team. And then they also went to the media, and they keep going to the media and making it seem like Justin's team's being shady. Justin's team isn't working with them. Gottlieb won't shut up. Like he keeps, I remember. Oh man, it's been fun times. That's so funny. And 7, I'm just laughing at myself in my head. Such a nerd. In an email delivered on June 12, 2025, in accordance with Rule 4C of the individual practices, I requested that Miss Lively's counsel meet and confer on the phone the following day at 3 p.m. about the requests, which include request number 108, 109, seeking Miss Lively's communication with Taylor Swift related to It Ends With Us. 8, hence the statement by Miss Lively's counsel in her declaration dated June 13th, 2025, that the Wayfarer parties have still not made themselves available to meet and confer on the issue is inaccurate. So she lied again. She is a lying liar who lies. A lying liar who lies. How do you get away with lying this much? Where is the court? Hello, Judge Lyman. So June 12th, Justin's team said, hey, let's chat. Let's have a talk. And on the 13th, her counsel is like, they haven't made themselves available to us. 9, in response to my email, Miss Lively's counsel confirmed on June 12, 2025, that they will be ready to discuss the parties' productions as needed. On June 13th, 2025 at 3 p.m., number 10, minutes before the scheduled meet and confer on June 13th, 2025, Miss Lively filed her motion. Given Miss Lively's prior representation and her formal discovery responses, the motion was the first time that she advised the Wayfarer parties that she was refusing to produce the documents responsive to requests 108 and 109. But who's using the court docket, Blake? Who's abusing it? 11, during the June 13th, 2025 telephone call, Miss Lively's counsel refused to discuss request number 108 to 109, Miss Lively's communications with Taylor about the film, because moments earlier, Miss Lively had filed the motion. So they're like on the phone. They're like, no, we're refusing to talk about it because we already filed the motion. That is shady. But here's the thing. You tend to hire people that are like you. So why is this even surprising to me? I shouldn't be surprised. When Miss Lively's counsel was reminded that I had requested, in accordance with the individual practices, that counsels meet and confer about the issue, Miss Lively's counsel again refused to discuss the issue and stated that I could oppose the motion. But here's, again, when we look back at what Blake has done, What Nick Shapiro's playbook is, allegedly, but anyone can put those pieces together if you look at his history, which is available on Google if you search him. Discredit the other side. Make the other side look like they're crazy, look like they're not cooperating, that they have it out for you, that they're being shady while you're pushing your narrative. Wow. When I suggested that notwithstanding Ms. Lively's premature filing of the motion, i.e. before the parties met and conferred, the parties should discuss request number 108 to 109 to resolve the dispute and moot the motion, especially given the court's already busy docket, Ms. Lively's counsel still refused to engage. And this is my problem too. Who has been the only one to be threatened with sanctions? Yep. Justin's side. 100%. 100%. 12. Moreover, during the telephone call, I explained to Ms. Lively's counsel something they already knew. The Wayfarer parties are entitled to communications between Blake and those non-parties identified in her amended initial disclosures. So that's what we saw above, or sorry, on the other one, all the redacted spots as having discoverable information. 13. The requests were included within the Wayfarer party's first set of requests for production of documents and things to Lively, dated February 21st, 2025, Exhibit A. On March 25th, 2025, Lively responded to them. Exhibit B. Even though 10 weeks had passed and even though the parties agreed to make rolling document productions, Miss Lively has not produced any documents responsive to the request. I'm so tired of her PR campaign, guys. I'm just so tired of it. As she trashes Bryan, Justin, everyone in the press, they're the problem. She's the victim. And look at how shady her lawyers have been playing. And they've been playing shady because they're putting these documents on the docket, which are like, and hoping also that people pick it up, that Legacy Media picks it up. They're sending a lot of documents directly to Legacy Media around Justin and Bryan skirting around the issues. She's an idiot. Oof. 14. For the request pertaining to Miss Lively's allegations of SH, her communications with Sony and WME, her talent agency, and documents concerning her alleged economic damages, her counsel refused to commit to a date for production thereof and merely stated that they would be produced prior to the July 1st, 2025 deadline for substantial completion of document discovery. 15. I also submit this declaration in place to place before the court true and correct copies of the following documents. 16. A true and correct copy of Wayfarer Party's first set of requests for production of documents and things to Lively, dated February 21st, 2025. It's attached as Exhibit A. 17. A true and correct copy of Miss Lively's response and objections to the document, dated March 24th, 2025, Exhibit B. 18. A true and correct copy of Miss Lively's amended initial disclosures, dated June 11th, 2025, is attached as Exhibit C. And 19, a true and correct copy of an email chain spanning June 11th, 2025 through June 12th, 2025 between counsel for Miss Lively and counsel for the Wayfarer parties regarding the document request and Miss Lively's failure to produce documents responsive thereto. And 20, a true and correct copy of Wayfarer party's initial disclosure. Wow. How are you guys feeling about that? That is wild to me. Let me just make sure the weather's starting to get bad again, that everything's working. Okay, we seem to be working still. Sometimes I don't realize if there's issues on my side or it looks like there's issues through StreamYard, but there's not issues on YouTube. So I just want to make sure we're still good. Like the stream, hang out with us. You guys, if you're new to the channel, I always try to bring it back to what I offer. So when we're going through court documents, I always want to look at it through the lens of branding, marketing, and PR. So it is a little bit, for those that are newer, a little bit of a different take, but I think it also gives us a lens on understanding the moves that, say, Blake is moving or making, with PR, with the press. Oof. All right. I think there's more that I have pulled up. Okay, we'll go over that. Oh my gosh, there's more. We'll skim this one. Let me just pull it up. So many lies. How do you sleep at night? Okay. We'll go over this one as well because again, it's just so many lies. Dear Judge Lyman, as counsel for Wayfarer Studios LLC, Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, it ends with us, Melissa Nathan, the agency group, PR LLC, and Jennifer Abel. We write in response to yesterday's letter from Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds to further support their motion to compel the responses to 3 interrogatories. So this is, and I had seen it go up, and basically what happened was we had covered it the other day. Blake had until 5 p.m., I think it was Monday, to follow up with the court and be like, did you get what you needed? Basically. And then she wrote to the court and she's like, we still didn't get what we needed. So this is what this is in response to. And it's calling them out on it, basically, because they're essentially, again, trying to play the card that Justin's side is like hiding the ball, so to speak, like hiding what they have, not being forthcoming, not being honest. And that's not what's happening. All right. The motion does not seek to compel responses by Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan to interrogatories served by Blake. In yesterday's letter, the Lively parties contend that defendants Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan failed to serve any supplemental responses to any of the interrogatories at issue. And as such, the motion remains wholly unresolved as to each of them. That statement is incorrect. How many lies? Like, don't take a shot every time that Blake Lively gets caught in a lie and her lawyers get caught in a lie. In the motion, Lively parties identified the interrogatories in dispute in Appendix A to their letter brief. According to Appendix A, none of the interrogatories in dispute were served by Miss Lively and upon either Miss Abel or Miss Nathan. Indeed, only the interrogatories directed to Miss Abel and Miss Nathan that are the subject of the motion were served by Ryan Reynolds. It's undisputed that Ryan Reynolds is no longer a party to this action. In turn, there's no obligation to respond to discovery requests that were served by Mr. Reynolds. So in Blake's letter, she was saging. Yeah, someone needs to sage. In Blake's letter, she was like, we still want everything in regards to Ryan Reynolds. And they're saying there was no reason. What are you talking about? Identification of email accounts provided to third parties. So Blake's going on about Justin's side having these dummy email accounts with all these drafts written up so it doesn't leave a paper trail, right? And that content creators can go in and see all the drafts without leaving a paper trail, and then you just delete the draft. So they're going on and on about this, wanting all of these email accounts where all of this clandestine shit was going on. And basically Justin's side was like, we can't show you something that didn't exist. Like, what are you talking about? And that's kind of where they're at a stalemate too, is Blake's like, no, we want this information. And his side is going, how do I prove that something doesn't exist? Like, what are you talking about? For the interrogatory seeking the identification of certain email accounts, the Lively parties acknowledge that Miss Lively propounded such interrogatory upon only one of the Wayfarer parties, the agency group. Furthermore, the Lively parties acknowledge that as promised, TAG supplemented its response to the interrogatories. Although the Lively parties feign confusion over TAG's one-word answer, which is none. So Blake's side is, we're so confused. What are you talking about? What does that mean? None. No, Blake, no. TAG's response confirmed that there are no email accounts as to which it provided any form of access to third parties. I just need a stretch. Oh my goodness. And they keep going back and forth over this. And Blake's like, no, I want it. I want the email address. And Justin's side, Wayfarer, is saying, no, they don't exist. None. Blake, none. It's a full sentence. None. And Blake goes, I know that's where that candescent, shady PR shit was happening. And they're like, no, it doesn't exist. Hence, this aspect of the motion is moot. The Lively parties further argue that the other Wayfarer parties must respond to Ryan Reynolds' interrogatory seeking the identification of certain email accounts because the Wayfarer parties have purportedly publicly indicated an intent to amend their complaint as to Ryan Reynolds. Tellingly, the lively parties do not cite any legal authority for the proposition that a party must respond to discovery demands served by a dismissed party. So wild. The motion as to Mr. Reynolds can simply be denied without prejudice. Identification of media outlets. The second interrogatory at issue asks the Wayfarer parties to identify all reporters and news and media outlets of any kind with whom you have communicated in any manner concerning Miss Lively, Mr. Reynolds, the CRD complaint, the actions, or the Lively Reynolds companies from June 15th, 2024 to present. Once again, the Lively parties nonsensically complain. I like the shade. I like it. Nonsensically complain that Miss Abel and Miss Nathan failed to supplement this request at all. Again, they're pointing out like all these letters to the judge are cleaning up all of the lies that Blake's been telling the court. Because then the court gets pissed and they're like, Blake, follow up by 5 p.m. on Monday and tell us if Wayfarer followed through because it looks like they're never following through. And Wayfarer's like, hello, we are doing everything we're told to do. Blake is just delulu and nonsensical. The Lively party's own appendix demonstrates that the motion did not seek to compel Miss Abel or Nathan to respond to the interrogatory. For Miss Abel and Nathan, the appendix reads NA. While the Lively parties now contend that the motion inadvertently omits that the reporter interrogatory was served upon Miss Abel and Nathan by Mr. Reynolds, any such omission is relevant to the motion because Mr. Reynolds is no longer a party. It's just wild. Identification of content creators. In the last interrogatory at issue, the Lively parties demand that the Wayfarer parties identify all content creators with whom you have communicated in any manner concerning Miss Lively, Mr. Reynolds, the CRD complaint, the actions, the Lively Reynolds companies, or the digital campaign from May 1st, 2024 to present. However, Miss Lively sought to compel a response only from TAG and not any of the other Wayfarer parties. Again, Mr. Reynolds is not a party to this action and cannot seek to compel responses to his discovery demands. Local Civil Rule 33.3a restricts the scope of interrogatories to those seeking names of witnesses with knowledge of information relevant to the subject matter of the action. Just need some water. The interrogatory violates the Local Civil Rule 33.3a because it's not limited to the information relevant to the subject matter of this action. And Miss Lively's letter does not dispute that the interrogatory violates Rule 33.3a. All right, so she's calling more lies. How many lies can they? It's just wild. It's a good point. Imagine Amber Heard had litigation privilege. It's a good point. Do content creators have protective rights like journalists? That is a great question, May, and I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. I do not know. And I think, I talked about this a bit yesterday. I think the law is going to have to catch up in many respects. Kind of a thought point I was sitting with yesterday, and I don't have an answer to. It was just a thought point that I've been thinking of is, could you, in theory, hire content creators as part of the marketing team, as part of the PR team? And if you have hired content creators as part of the marketing team or the PR team, one, are the content creators legally required to disclose that they're part of someone's team? I don't know. And number two, again, would they then be protected by the same laws that would protect like anyone that's on a PR team? And that's kind of just something I've been sitting with, because I do think that's where what we're going to see a lot of PR and marketing move towards is really bringing on content creators, because people are losing trust in traditional media. So yeah, I don't really have the answer to that. It's just something I've been sitting with and thinking. And then the argument becomes, if they had hired I'm not saying they did. Okay. I'm not saying they did. Bryan Freedman never said they did. Just my own little brain. If they had hired someone that's a content creator as part of the PR team, then they would, I believe, be protected as part of like their communications in terms of client like lawyer client potentially privileged information, but also as part of the legal strategy. Potentially. Nick Vile, allegedly. Allegedly. Oh, now that I know who he is. I'm just jumping on now. Oh, your hair and makeup. Oh, thank you. You guys are so sweet today. Everyone's being so kind. You can live by ethical journalist standards, but you have to stick with that. YouTuber can protect their sources. Dave Neal has experience with this. Oh, that's right. He did have experience with that. I forgot. That's a good point. Variety, allegedly. Yes. Hello. Hello. It's so nice to see you. Okay. Let's see. I think there was one more. Oh, yes. This is what I wanted to look at. I need to like stretch after dealing with Blake. Stresses me out. Okay. Oops, that's not what I want to do. Okay, so this is also something I want to look at. I did look, the necessary addresses are redacted, so that's already been done, so I feel comfortable sharing this. Defendants consolidated plaintiffs' initial disclosures. So this is losing my voice. I have so many client calls this afternoon. I can't lose it. Defendants consolidated plaintiffs, Wayfarer Studios, Justin, Jamie, Steve, it ends with us, etc. Hereby make the following initial disclosures pursuant to Rule 26A1 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure in connection with Blake Lively Wayfarer Studios and the consolidated case and related case with Stephanie Jones. The Wayfarer parties make these initial disclosures based upon information obtained and available by this or to date. By making these disclosures, the Wayfarer parties do not represent that they are identifying, describing, and or producing or identifying any document, item, electronically stored information, tangible thing, or witness damages or insurance policy that the Wayfarer parties may use in support of their claims. In addition, it's possible that an individual listed herein may not, in fact, personally possess significant or relevant information regarding the issues involved in this litigation, or may only have limited knowledge or knowledge which is duplicative of knowledge possessed by others. The Wayfarer parties reserve the right to modify, amend, and otherwise supplement these initial disclosures in accordance with Rule 26E as additional information becomes available. As such, the initial disclosures represent in good faith to identify information currently available and that the Wayfarer parties reasonably believe is required by 26A. All right. So this is name, address, phone number of individuals likely to have discoverable information. And it looks like law firms are added. So people that need to be redacted are redacted. So individuals, Justin, Wayfarer Studios, it ends with us. Okay, let's go down though. Because there's some Blake Lively, obviously. Ryan Reynolds, party and husband of Miss Lively as recipient knowledge as to the facts and events alleged in the pleadings. It'll be interesting to see what they can get from him because I imagine there's a lot of protection for spousal protection there. Vision PR, Leslie Sloan, Stephanie Jones, Jones Work, the New York Times Company, Megan Toohey, Mike McIntyre is a reporter at the New York Times and has recipient knowledge as to the facts. Julie Tate, reporter at the New York Times. Danielle Rhodes, senior vice president and communications at New York Times. Alex Sachs, producer. Okay, let's keep going. Jenny Slate. She's been interestingly quiet. This New York Times allegedly. Been interesting how quiet she's been, eh? Brandon Feekins? Who? Oh, Sklenar. Okay. I didn't know that wasn't his real last name. Brendan Sklenar. He might have information. Hassan might have information. So they're listing a bunch of cast members. Isabella. She's been quiet. I don't think she's posted anything at all. Robin Lively. Where else? Colleen Hoover. It'll be interesting to see what they get from Colleen, because Colleen, is she one of your favorites? To see what's going to come out on her or what she knew? That's I want to know. Because if you look back, she was Justin's biggest supporter and then turned on him. So I want to know why she turned. Who else is interesting? There's a lot of people. I think Taylor's listed here. There's so many pages. Like there's crew. It's a bunch of the crew of It Ends With Us, production people, wardrobe supervisors, camera operators. Like, did Blake forget about the cast, like the crew, like not just the actors? Sound supervisors, location managers, composer, Rob Simonson. Simonson was a composer on the crew of It Ends With Us. Sean Levy, Bradley Cooper, Taylor Swift. And you guys have been saying, you've been pointing out for some time around Bradley Cooper and Gigi. Like, what did they know? I think they were at that original screening. Interesting. Michael Gottlieb. I am dying for Bryan Freedman to respond to him being subpoenaed with a subpoena for Gottlieb. I am dying. I would love to know. Gottlieb is counsel for Miss Lively, Mr. Reynolds, and has relevant information that the Wayfarer parties may use to support their claims and defenses in this action. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he the one that apparently was tied into the extortion claims against Taylor Swift? Oh, I think he was the first composer who allegedly got fired. Interesting. The lowly people, how she supposedly she didn't remember them. So Bridget Wright is Senior Vice President of Global Creative Advertising for Sony. Danny Magan. Magan was an employee in the Marketing and Public Relations Department of Sony. A lot of marketing and PR people in Sony. I also wonder if that's also to get information to show, like Blake took over the marketing. She took over the PR. She took over it all. Interesting. Michael Marshall, employee in the Business and Legal Affairs Department of Sony. Liz Plank. There's one I'm excited about. Maybe Liz shouldn't have posted shady shit on Instagram or X or whatever it was. Did you guys see that? I think I have a video. I have a reel for sure up on it. I don't know if I did a full-length video on it, but maybe she shouldn't have laughed at Justin Baldoni recently on social media. I want to know what she knows too. I think she was in on it. Because if you look at her past, Liz has been connected to Brian. Oh my gosh. Now I'm just connecting. Now Blake and Ryan are Brian, guys, in my brain. That's where we're at this week. Blake and Ryan, she has connections to them long before connections to Justin. I do think I have a video on that. Employees of Jones work. Oh my gosh, that Leslie Dobson. Dobson is a forensic clinical psychologist. She has relevant information that the Wayfarer parties may use to support their claims. Isn't she the person on social media that has like been completely unprofessional and was like diagnosing Justin Baldoni? Yes, that's what I was thinking. That's her, right? I love this. I love this for Leslie. That's amazing. Oh my goodness. Oh, guys. That's going to be interesting. Because she's been loud and proud about being a clinical psychologist, forensic clinical psychologist, and the thoughts she has on Justin Baldoni. Did she really? She's already started deleting videos. Anyone got screen records? No, is she really? No. Wait, what? How am I so far behind in this? Guys, I am okay. My mind is blown in real time. Okay, I am sorry. I'm genuinely trying to process this information in real time. Wow. Yes, we got it all perfect. Oh, she's allegedly the one who passed out HR complaints from Sony. Are those the ones that felt really like sketchy? The ones where there was like a lot of back and forth whether yeah, we need Dr. Curry. Where's Dr. Curry? Bring your muffins, Dr. Curry. We all love you. You are amazing. You are beautiful, intelligent, well-spoken. We love you. Oh my gosh. This is getting wilder in real time. I haven't seen it. We have people at X who have screenshots of everything she'd posted. Perfect. Okay. Well, this got really interesting. We're really going to need to bring our florals. Holy crap. I don't even have florals. The only flowers I have are dead. Keep dead flowers, which probably goes with the, my brand. All right. Well, okay. I'm still trying to process that in my brain, but wow. Sophia, an assistant to Blake and Ryan. Weber, an attorney for Blake. Okay, that's got to just be a coincidence. Carly Swift, that's not related to Taylor, I imagine. You guys will let me know in the comments. I imagine not. Swift was an assistant to Miss Sachs. That's got to be a coincidence. She's already discredited herself. Only a fool would take her seriously. Well, that's a good point, too. Am I the only one who gets nostalgia when I watch Dr. Curry and Johnny Depp full legal team? Oh, for sure. Oh, WME. Well, no wonder there's someone else that was trying to cover her tracks or his tracks. Do you remember that, guys? So Ari Emanuel full chest went on and was like trashing Justin and calling him Justin Baloney and all of this. Full chest out, making it a huge joke. And then all of a sudden that audio disappeared. All of a sudden when Ari Emanuel started getting pushback about that, and it made press worse for Blake and Lively. Oh gosh, guys, I'm sorry. In real time, I'm unraveling. Blake and Ryan, that audio just disappeared. But of course, the internet had it. So WME, Sony Pictures, Harvey from TMZ. Marie Shea? Oh, sorry, Marie. I'm not trying to be shady. Head of publicity for WME. All right. They're going for it. I'm excited to see how this rolls out for some of these people or how this plays out. Wow. Oh, we've talked a lot longer than I expected. Let me just see what's going on. In my head, I thought this will just be an hour. It'll be quick so I can prepare for. Let's see what's going on for SEO for Blakey today. Tell us what's to like about Liz. I feel bad for my flowers. Yes, I am horrible with flowers. I try so hard. I genuinely try. Top stories under Blake Lively. So for those that are newer to the channel, welcome, subscribe. The chat's amazing here. I really work hard to keep a high standard where we're not attacking each other. It doesn't devolve. When we're looking at SEO, search engine optimization, you want control. So anyone within their branding, their marketing, their PR wants control of the first 2 pages of Google. That is like bare minimum. So this is what's showing on Blake's. Sources claim Taylor Swift is furious at Blake Lively. Sources claim Taylor Swift will forever be furious at Blake Lively. Taylor Swift message is crucial to disprove Blake Lively's allegations. Oh, this is not looking good for Blake today. And Justin is taking over her front page, and he is on vacation with his family. That's a great PR move from Justin's team. Fantastic PR move. While she's out here being nuts, making all these appearances, selling her Betty Boos, Justin's focusing on family. It was such a smart move. So smart. And it's not like it's legit. It's authentic. He is spending time with his family. He is letting his team handle it. And it just shows such a stark difference between the two of them. So yeah, I love this for her. Blake Lively's first page is how Taylor Swift hates her and how Justin is spending time with his family. Oh, even her favorite, her mouthpiece People even picked it up, that Justin's on vacation with his family. Oh, and on the front page too, Blake Lively denied access to Wayfarer documents. Taylor Swift text relevant to Blake Lively lawsuit. So that's just what we read with Bryan Freedman saying, no, they are relevant. They are all relevant. So it looks like it is being picked up. We have Variety's one on page 2, moves to block Justin Baldoni's request about her dropping claims. Cosmo 2 hours ago, Taylor Swift thinks Blake Lively used her for clout. Someone is pushing this. Someone is pushing this. Okay, so when you start to notice, so one thing I look at when something's not organic is, for example, Kim Kardashian on a Sunday she put up a post about her son's birthday, the theme being Deadpool and Wolverine. And like an hour and a half later, page 6 had an exclusive, and then everyone was running with a very similar story. So when I look, like, things that are organic take longer to pick up steam is essentially what I'm saying. When you look at that, a post that went out on a Sunday to be picked up organically by publications and then run with it within hours on a Sunday night doesn't happen. Usually those stories are ready to go. And someone that's, say, working and giving the exclusive, let's say to page 6, you would say, okay, my post is going live on Instagram. It's set to go live at 4 p.m. You're safe to run it at 6 p.m. Okay. So that would be kind of the agreement that you would make with companies or with publications. So when we start to see this gaining a lot of steam and gaining it fast, it doesn't feel organic in the sense of like they're just making stuff up, right? Just slow news day, so we have to make something up. Now, who leaked it? Well, the only one to me that would have any reason to put that story forward would be Taylor, to be quite honest. I have no proof that it's Taylor. But the only one that I think has any reason to put forward a story saying, no, I want nothing to do with Blake is Taylor. Page 6 source claims Taylor Swift will forever be furious at Blake Lively using her for clout. For her to see Blake username in that context was hurtful. Quick update on where things with Taylor Swift and Blake Lively stand amid Taylor being dragged into Blake Lively's legal drama with Justin Baldoni, according to page 6. So is that, yeah, it's a hyperlink too. So that's the benefit as well of getting the exclusive is people as in publications will have to hyperlink back to you and give you credit for that, which people are likely going to click on it because all of the details will be on the original one and you get ad revenue. So something like this that automatically plays, anything that automatically plays on the page, this as well, just from being on the page, Cosmo is getting paid ad revenue because it automatically plays. Plus, if you click on anything, they'll get money as well. So that's why having the exclusive. Okay, I want to take a step back before I read any further. So sometimes you'll see people say, or you'll see PR people on social media say, no, like, people have this perception that there's these shady deals. And, for example, Blake Lively's team's going to say, I'll give you $10 million to run my story. Yeah, that's not typically how it's going to go in that respect. And I agree with that, but they're also leaving out a very important detail when PR people are putting forward that story and saying, no, it doesn't really work like how it does in the movies. Okay, I agree. And there's clicks. If you click on anything, you're going to get money. You're going to get money for having these ads that play automatically. And if you have the exclusive, everyone links back. So even myself clicking here, I'm going to bring us to page 6 right after. And so page 6 is going to make money. So, it's to me, it's an irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't hold any weight to argue, well, they're not being paid directly. Because if you have the exclusive on something, you're making money. You're the first one to drop the news. So the rush of people looking for that news are going to go to you, and you're getting all of the ad revenue. And then everyone else has to link back to you. And curiosity killed the cat. People are going to click on it. And then you're getting that ad revenue as well. So I think it's just a little disingenuous to say that, well, yeah, they're not necessarily saying like, here's $10 million to run my story. But if someone says, hey, I'll give you all these exclusives, or they're shopping around an exclusive to kind of the higher bidder, there's the potential. There is the potential for publications to be friendly to a certain side because they think that it's going to get more clicks and more money, essentially, is what I'm saying. A source tells the outlet that Taylor will forever be furious at how Blake quite clearly was using her for clout and leverage in her dealings with Justin. She really hates that Blake would even think like that, let alone write the things she did in that text. The insider adds that the damage Justin did by revealing those texts, the dragon texts most especially, and by his initial subpoena, even though he dropped it, is lasting and probably permanent. The truth is the text wasn't even accurate. That's not the kind of friendship they ever had. Taylor would never think of herself as Blake's dragon or protector or someone who would interfere on her behalf. For starters, Blake is a grown woman who doesn't need anyone to do that for her. Second, she's married to one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. It was never a matter of Taylor believing she'd ever have to fight any battles for Blake. I will say this, and this is a hill I am willing to die on. Around the time, if you look at, and I've actually done the timeline, not on a live, I don't think, but for my own interest, around the time that Blake was being seen with Taylor a lot, there was like, you couldn't do anything without seeing Taylor, Blake, and Ryan in the news. If you go back, actually, I think I meant to do this on a video. Sorry, guys, I never did it. Now I think about it. But if you go back and you track it, around the time that Taylor was seen in their pap walks, they don't have to be seen if they don't want to be seen, is the reality of it. Around that time that you were getting a lot of articles of Blake, Taylor, and Ryan out together was around the time that Blake was pushing for the dailies. So Blake was pushing for the dailies, and if you track it, which I did, you track the timeline, it was around the time that Justin was pushing back and wasn't giving them to her. And then around that time, he said, okay, here's like the highlights. Here's what I really liked. But I've always stood on the hill of, and until proven otherwise, be willing to die on the hill of, that was kind of like a statement of the three of them being seen together. Because at the end of the day, sure, Taylor can put out a statement saying that like she's married to Ryan. You're still Taylor Swift. Everyone knows about the Swifties, Taylor. Don't play coy. Everyone knows about the Swifties and how dangerous the Swifties can be when the Swifties turn on you. We all know. So I've always said that it seemed very obvious that it was a hint, an Easter egg, if you will, seeing them all together. I'll give a talk at your weekend if you give my wife a Time Award. Yeah, it's like, and that's exactly, yeah. It's exactly what the industry is. Okay, so this is the original page 6 article. Taylor Swift has ditched. Oh, this one came out on the 14th. I wonder if there's a newer one. Taylor Swift has ditched Blake Lively, no way back for friendship. She will forever be furious. It's interesting then that everyone's picking it up now. Why are they pushing the story again? Oh, yeah, this is the one Taylor buries hatchets but keeps maps of where she put them. I mean, at the end of the day, a dragon egg. Yeah, it's not Easter eggs, they're dragon eggs. At the end of the day, I mean, I fully support Taylor distancing herself from this mess. She has to. And I just don't believe, and you're not going to have me believe at any point in time, that she was completely oblivious to everything. I do believe, Blake, that Taylor was with her every step of the way. Do I think Taylor was involved in making these fake claims against Justin? No, I don't think so. I don't think she had any idea about fake claims of SH. And I genuinely don't think Taylor would be on board with that. And maybe that's when things took a hard turn. And Taylor was like, ooh, I've got to bounce. I've got to separate myself from this immediately. So maybe that's when things started to fall apart and unravel at the seams. But I won't believe that Taylor did not know that Blake was doing some shady shit or was involved in like take over the movie, gain more control, whatever the case may be. And I also don't think Taylor believes that she has no, or that she has more. No, let me back up. I don't believe Taylor believes that she has less pull in the industry or less influence than Ryan Reynolds. I also don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. Taylor Swift knows she's the most powerful person in Hollywood, one of the most powerful. And even if you take away everything else and you just leave the Swifties on the table, if you take everything else out and you just leave the Swifties on the table, that fan base has the power to destroy someone. So Taylor doesn't have to lift a finger for that. I don't believe Taylor didn't know. I agree. I don't believe she didn't know that Blake was doing some things. Well, and that's a good point too. If Taylor didn't know anything, those texts wouldn't be so highly coveted. That's a good point. If I was getting dragged into something like this, or even if Bryan Freedman was trying to say, like, Ashley, if I was in Blake Lively's shoes, Ashley, we need your text messages with Taylor to prove or to support our case. If there was nothing there, I'd be like, there's nothing there. I wouldn't be having a meltdown over those texts being given over. Maybe she believed her at first. That's possible too. I still can't figure out how Ryan Reynolds is the richest and most powerful man in Hollywood. I've never watched any of his movies. I didn't know anything about Blake Lively until now. Blake, I think most people have that same sentiment that she was known as Ryan Reynolds' wife. I kind of knew her as the Met Gala darling, the princess of the Met Gala. I have to admit, I've always loved her gowns, especially that one where, they pulled the sleeves off and undid the bow and it was a completely different color. Stunning, beautiful. Ryan, he's been a very, and people won't agree with me on this, but it's fine. He's a very smart businessman. He's been a very smart businessman. He's made a lot of investments, a lot of connections. He's made a lot of money through that. He's diversified in many ways. He has Hollywood North that's coming up in Canada and Ontario, not too far from me. He has first look deals with 20th Century. I think it's 20th Century TV and another company, which is slipping my mind right now. Yeah, might not be like the biggest actor, but he has definitely put his fingers everywhere in the industry. Let me just see if anything news on the docket before I let you guys go. You're going to play that game. Hey, court listener. Of course, you're going to do that to me. Sometimes it just doesn't work for me. I don't know why. Sometimes I wonder if I've just been kicked out. Ooh, there is something new. Do you guys, we're already an hour and 40 minutes in. I do have to go shortly because I have to finish up some stuff for client calls. But do you guys want to go over this quick? Oh, it's only 5 pages. Okay, we can go over this quick. Let me pull it up. Okay, so this is just went up, order granting in part and denying in part 295 motion to compel. The motion is granted as the content creator interrogatory propounded by Lively to tag. Defined as stated above, the interrogatory is not hopelessly vague or unduly burdensome. Docket number 311. It does not include any person who can, I'm just reading here first and then we'll look at it. It does not include any person who can generate, create, or influence online content, but only the much smaller subset of those who do so on the behalf of or at the request of any given Wayfarer party. The motion is denied as to the content creator interrogatories propounded by Reynolds, which are moot for the reasons stated above. The motion to compel at docket number 295 is granted in part and denied in part. The Wayfarer parties shall respond by June 25th, 2025 to the interrogatories for which the motion is granted. So 295. Let me just scroll down. Okay, that's the one where Blake Lively was crying over not getting all the information to the content creators. But let's look at here first. All right, Judge J. Lyman, United States District Judge, Blake Lively, and Ryan Reynolds moved to compel Wayfarer Studios, Justin, Jamie, Steve, It Ends With Us, Melissa, Nathan, the agency group, and Jennifer Abel to respond to certain interrogatories served on March 14th, 2025, docket number 295. The motion is granted in part and denied in part. Lively and Reynolds seek to compel responses to 3 interrogatories. The first interrogatory, the account interrogatory, states, identify any email account from May 1st, 2024 to date in which any third party, including but not limited to content creators or the media, had access for the purpose of communicating information of any kind, including messaging, talking points, guidelines, scripts, or other information regarding Ms. Lively, Mr. Reynolds, and the digital campaign, the CRD complaint, or the actions. This interrogatory was propounded by Reynolds, not Lively, to each of the Wayfarer parties except It Ends With Us and Tag. The interrogatories was propounded by Lively to Tag. While Lively and Reynolds' motion to compel was pending, the court dismissed the Wayfarer parties' claims against Reynolds, granting leave to amend certain claims. The Wayfarer parties agreed that Tag would provide a supplemental response to interrogatories, and Tag did so. None of the other Wayfarer parties have responded to the interrogatory. The Wayfarer parties object that access is vague. I'm surprised this was, because we literally just read something that was submitted yesterday from Justin Baldoni. I'm surprised this was made so fast. Interesting. The motion to compel is denied as to the account interrogatory. The wording of the interrogatory is sufficiently specific to enable a targeted response by Wayfarer. However, Reynolds is not entitled to respond because he is not a party. So, okay, Ryan, you're out of here. As a party, Reynolds would be entitled to discovery relevant to any party's claims or defense, but there are currently no claims or defenses in this case in which he is a party, and therefore nothing to which discovery would be responsive. The mere possibility of an amended complaint may be filed is no basis to the court to compel discovery regarding issues that are not pending and may never be pending before it. So, yeah, which makes no sense. We think that they might add Ryan back in. Okay. Reynolds may renew the motion if after the filings of the amended complaint, the requested information is relevant to a claim or defense in an action where he is a party. The second interrogatory states, identify all reporters and news or media outlets of any kind with whom you have communicated in the manner concerning Ms. Lively, Mr. Reynolds, the CRD complaint actions, or Lively Reynolds companies. All of the Wayfarer parties except Nathan and Abel have responded to the interrogatory, but have limited their responses to the period between June 15th and December 21st, 2024. Lively seeks responses through the present for all parties. The motion to compel is granted as to the reported interrogatory. The Wayfarer parties have provided no justification for withholding the responses of Nathan and Abel regarding the period between June 15th and December 21st, and in fact agree to provide such responses. Regarding the period between December 21st, 2024 and the present, the Wayfarer parties object that although the amended complaint alleges the smear campaign is ongoing, it does not assert any claim by Reynolds or the Lively Reynolds companies, and the pleading cites the communications at issue. These objections do not provide a basis to deny the motion. Although the amended complaint does not assert claims by Reynolds, it asserts their attempt to discredit Mr. Reynolds. Were part of the campaign against Blake Lively, December 21st, 2024. And although it cites certain specific statements made by the defendant's lawyers, it also states the defendants themselves continue to be involved after December 21st, 2024, framing the campaign as a continuation of events prior to the CRD complaint. The Wayfarer party's engagement with media outlets after the release of the CRD complaint is relevant to the truth or falsity of these allegations, and the Wayfarer parties have not raised any other objections. The third content creator interrogatory states, identify all content creators with whom you have communicated in any manner concerning Blake, Ryan, CRD, actions, companies, digital campaign from May 1st to present, May 1st, 2024. This was Lively and Reynolds have agreed to define the term content creators to mean any individual or entity who seeds, generates, creates, or influences social media content or provides relevant digital or social media services directly or indirectly at the request of or the behalf of any Wayfair parties or their agents or affiliates. Blake, I would love to know which content creators you have been in contact with. The motion is granted as the content creator interrogatory propounded by Blake Lively to tag, define as stated above. The interrogatory is not hopelessly vague or unduly burdensome. It does not include any person who can generate, create, or influence online content, but only much smaller subset of those who did it on their behalf. The motion is denied as to the content creator interrogatories in regards to Reynolds. Well, there you go. It seems weird to me because I could have swore we just read something. Could have swore we just read something that they submitted yesterday. But anyway, yeah, we did. Anyway. There you go. Why can't Bryan Freedman compel them to give the Van Zandt subpoena, which news outlets have already seen? That is a good question. That is a good question. And I agree. If she was innocent, she wanted to provide her messages, information to prove her innocence. I agree. And this is what I've been saying too. People can't give documents if they don't have any. Exactly. Well, I may as well I hurt you, Blake, BFF. All right, my friends. I agree. Hopefully the judge sees through Blake as she started this, and she should at least provide her messages to prove her innocence. I agree. I hope. All right, my friends, I do have to go though. Oh my goodness. I have to get ready for client calls this afternoon. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and for caring about this kind of stuff, caring about the PR and the marketing and branding side of things. I didn't know anyone would care, but I talked about it and you guys showed up. So I appreciate it. You guys are amazing. And I feel so blessed to be surrounded by such an incredible community. So with that, I am getting some water in me before I lose my voice. And I will see you guys in the next one. And yes, remember to like the stream before you go and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.